expression of personal complaints or comments about the Board of Education personnel and students, nor against any person connected to the Danbury Public School System. So what I'll do is you guys will have 3 minutes. When it gets down to the 1 minute mark, I'll just put the finger up like this 1 minute so you guys know that you're almost done. And first person is Kate Canetta.
Hi, Dr. Sal and members of the board. Tonight we're joined by people from 3 different community groups: Connecticut Students for a Dream, the Danbury Area Justice Network, and Action Together, as well as parents, teachers, students, and other community members. We've come here tonight with a direct request of you. As you know, recent events on the national political level have left members of our community feeling frightened about what the future holds. Unfortunately, we've already seen behavior at the local level, which is contributing to the unrest. Back in November, we heard about swastikas appearing in the Danbury neighborhood. That same month at a football game in Wilton, the opposing team chanted, "Build a wall," at our high school players. In Norwalk, white supremacist pamphlets were distributed in driveways and mailboxes. In Stamford, the N-word was painted on someone's garage door. Last month at the high school, an inebriated man and some students were involved in a confrontation during which he attacked them for their perceived immigrant status. This issue is on our doorstep, and we must move forward proactively to address it. Especially because the current climate is creating so much stress for families, teachers, and students, our schools need to be supportive places where all children can learn, free of fear or intimidation, no matter their gender, race, religion, sexual orientation or identity, or immigration status. We know that teachers and staff need to be familiarized with protocols and given the tools to handle increasingly complicated circumstances in order to best act on behalf of their students. And more than ever, our students need to hear that they are safe, that within the walls of their schools, they will not be subject to harassment or attack. No family should have to worry that sending their child to school may result in deportation. On February 22nd, Governor Malloy stated, "Above all, we are obligated to protect the rights afforded to all our residents and ensure that students attend safe, welcoming schools. The best approach for local communities is to have a plan in place so that everyone in our state, including young students, are supported respectfully and fairly under the laws of our state and our nation. For these very reasons, we are asking you to take actions in support of this and further demonstrate your commitment to protecting the students in our community who are most vulnerable at this time." We certainly appreciated Dr. Glass reaching out during the forum on March 1st organized by the Tribuna. It's clear from what he said that there are already supportive measures being taken in the schools, but we do have additional requests. If I might stop now and have the rest of the statement read by the next person on the list, which is Tara Martin Volpe. Thank you.
Would you like to give me that so I can put it in the minutes, please?
Can I just, can someone move their car? They're blocking 2 cars.
What kind of car is it?
It's a Honda CRV 525 is the first. No, is that anybody? Okay, sorry.
Hello, my name is Tara Martin Volpe. My daughter attends AIS. Our specific requests include the drafting of a detailed protocol for schools to follow for situations involving ICE, a letter signed by Dr. Sal provided both in English and Spanish to go home with each student. This letter would express the school district's dedication to creating welcoming and safe spaces for all, and would outline the procedure that the school will follow with regard to requests from ICE. A brief Know Your Rights information packet to accompany this letter, and our group would work with you to provide pertinent content. While we understand the weight of what we are asking for and are aware of your concerns about how outgoing messages may be misinterpreted, we also know that our community members are already scared and confused. In addition, they may be reluctant to reach out for assistance because of isolating factors such as language, social engagements, or other circumstances. By sending sending home a supportive statement and outlining the facts both in English and in Spanish. It is our belief that this will put vital information directly into the hands of undocumented citizens and help the community at large be ready for any possible outcomes. The last thing we want is to see a situation which could have been avoided if only the parties involved had been aware of proper procedures or facts. Additionally, we have a petition for people to sign who support this initiative. Ultimately, we feel the gravity of recent events behooves us to be prepared and to help others be prepared as well. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening, and thank you for all the work that you do to support the students, families, and community members of Danbury.
And could I just see a show of hands for all the people that are here for this initiative?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Would you like to turn that in also to the
It's
minutes?
the same exact document.
Oh, okay. No.
You write mine.
It's the same thing.
It's all the same, yeah.
Okay, Tracy Kelly.
Good evening, Ms. Media. As you know, my name is Tracy Kelly, and I'm here today representing parents, advocates, and community members who have been working on behalf of the Danbury Prospect Charter School over the last 18 months. The Danbury Prospect team is currently seeking approval to become a thriving K-12 free public school option for Danbury families. And we are urging Governor Malloy and Commissioner Wenzel to approve our application. Modeled after the sister school, Brooklyn Prospect Charter School, currently operating 4 successful schools in Brooklyn, New York, Danbury Prospect will educate students using a curriculum built around the prestigious and academically challenging International Baccalaureate framework, also referred to as the IB framework. In order to engage students in inquiry-based learning, nurture curiosity, and grow their critical thinking skills. Once approved, the school will not only be Danbury's first public charter school, it will also be the first public school in Connecticut modeled around the pillars of the IB program throughout all K through 12 grades. Danbury Prospect plans to start with 6th grade and grow a grade every year until they reach capacity with a proposed school-wide enrollment of approximately 1,000 children, K through 12. Our hope is to alleviate middle and high school overcrowding while still maintaining a small school feel. Approval of our application will pave the way for a more innovative public school options in Danbury and provide more middle school seats to help alleviate overcrowding. In addition, Danbury Prospect will push the academic performance boundaries of students by creating a culture of high expectations for students and teachers. Currently, Danbury 3rd through 5th grade students keep pace with their statewide peers in ELA and math, but fall significantly behind in middle school, 6th grade, compared to statewide proficiency levels. With a more rigorous and we believe diverse program and a 13-year continuum, we can develop students' intellectual, personal, social skills necessary. Thank you. In addition, I also want to take just 1 minute to clarify some issues that arose last week in Wednesday, February 22nd board meeting following the charter school workshop. There were a few things that I just wanted to make sure were clear. First, charter schools are public schools open to all children, and charter schools may not charge tuition. Charter schools do not take money away from district schools. If a child decides to go to a charter school in Danbury, Danbury Public Schools keeps 94% of that money that would have been spent to educate that child. Danbury Prospect would be entirely funded by the state, except for a small portion pertaining to social and emotional development and health needs of students, which we talked about before. Connecticut state law also requires charter schools to pay into the Connecticut pension for teachers. This is not an option. And Connecticut state law also allows teachers at a charter school to form a union if they decide that they want one. Approval of the Danbury Prospect Charter School application immediately opens the door to a world of possibilities, and we are excited by the prospect. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to turn that in? Okay, Stephanie Alfonso.
Hi, I am Stephanie Alfonso. My kids are grown. I had 2 kids come through the Danbury school system. For 6 years, I was the PTO president at the high school. when Kathy Richard was principal. And she really taught me that we needed to be focusing on all our children, not just our own. I well remember 11 years ago when 11 immigrants were illegally rounded up and the fear that came coursing through our community. So with that in mind, I ask you again, I second the letter from Ms. Canetta, the request to have that letter sent home. The fear that's in our community is palpable, and that small little bit that we could take away, some of the anxiety for the families, I think is very, very important. And I would also like to know what has been or will be done regarding Title IX and our transgender youth, and also anything that has been or will be done for all of our LGBT students. Thank you.
Okay, Kevin Haddad.
Good evening. Kevin Haddad, Danbury resident and fourth grade teacher at King Street Intermediate. As always, I have a lot of things I could share with you, but I'm going to narrow it down tonight to a few. I know you are aware of the sub shortage in the district. I just want to highlight the impact of this issue on those of us in the classroom. I'm going to tell you a story. We're going to call this teacher Mrs. Jenkins. And she could be any of the ELL teachers in our district. She prepares her lessons for her students, ready for each day. The beginning of the school year, she puts effort into her growth plan. However, she's often called upon to cover 3 to 4 times a week for a classroom teacher who's absent and has no sub-coverage. Each day she arrives at work not knowing if she'll be able to work with her students as planned or be covering a classroom. Meanwhile, the students she is expected to provide services to are left behind in their classrooms. Classroom teachers spend their days wondering if their ELL students will get services or not that day. Between required ELL testing and covering classrooms, students can go weeks at a time without receiving services from their ELL teacher. Classroom teachers struggle to plan their own lessons, not knowing if those students will be present or not. If it sounds frustrating, I can assure you it is. I'd also like to formally request a full-time math coach in each of the elementary schools. Currently, my school, King Street Intermediate, we have 3 part-time coaches. They work kind of a hodgepodge of days, and I can assure you they work really hard and do the best that they can, but it's tough for the classroom teachers to always know who's going to be there and what days. They also, with their schedules now, aren't able to take students in a small group setting, and they don't have time for SRBI services. And speaking of struggling students, kids who might be working on basic addition and subtraction, reading 2 years below grade level, I'd like to see tutoring programs for them after school. We do offer a tutoring program after school. It's for SBAC testing, and it identifies students who almost reach proficiency, or kind of the bubble kids, and they get extra help after school. Meanwhile, the lowest of our low, who are not SPED, get nothing. And lastly, I'd like to state my opposition to any charter school in Danbury. I plan to speak on this issue further in the future, but in the meantime, I urge you all to educate yourselves on charter schools to the best of your ability, and think long and hard about the risk you would take upon yourself. Thank you.
Carolina Maldetto. Sorry if I butchered the name.
Hi everyone, my name is Carolina Botalenta. I've been a resident of Danbury for about 18 years. Father in the Danbury school system. I went to Roberts Avenue, we had a Roberts Avenue, went to Spug, and Danbury High School, and Western Connecticut State University. I'm also an undocumented immigrant, so I'm one of the, my family is one of the many families here in Danbury who, like in case is living in fear nowadays because we don't know what's going to happen. So I'm here really just seconding the letter that was read earlier, that providing information to our families would really be beneficial to our families. I know that people have a lot of questions. I understand that a lot of times people are hesitant to put information out there because we don't know, people might misunderstand when we put out information. But I can assure you that any information is better than no information, and putting information out to families will benefit everyone involved, and also will having a procedure in place about what to do, if there is a request for immigration from one of the students. It will give families a peace of mind to ensure that the school is looking out for them, and that the school welcomes everyone, no matter where they were born, where they were raised.
Angie Pedrogo.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angelica Edobo, but they call me Angie. I'm an undocumented student that lives in Danbury for the past 8 years. I'm here in support of Kate's letter. I want to ask you all to stand in support of my community. I have been, as I mentioned before, I have been living in Danbury, Connecticut for the past 8 years since I came here with my family. I know what it is to live in fear of deportation, of thinking that your parents or yourself will be detained and deported the next day, and not knowing if you will be put in foster care or how I will sustain myself or how I will help my brothers. So I went to middle school, I went to Roxbury, and I also graduated in 2013 from Danbury High School. I currently got my associate degree in the Lanada Valley Community College, and I really want to ask you to hold my back. These are times that are very critical for me and for my family, and for the undocumented community who are living in fear, who thinks that there is no other way for us to go back to our country. It's a country that we don't even remember. Thank you.
Clementina Lunar.
Hi, good evening. My name is Clementina Lunar, and I've been living in Danbury for the last 25 years. I have 3 grown children who attend in Danbury public schools. We're a family who immigrated from Mexico. We know exactly how it feels and how it is to be undocumented family. My children who at the time attended the Danbury public schools, I still have one who attends a high school, but the other 2 remember how beautiful it was to attend Danbury public schools, how safe it feels to be in those buildings with those teachers who put so much effort into teaching them. One became my professional, the other one is still in college, and the younger one attends special education programs. And right now I'm also seconding Mrs. Fernandez's letter because I feel that it's very important for those families who have children in the school system to feel safe, to know that the children are coming back home after a long day in school. And I really plead you to think about and to make sure that if at least they receive the letter with information that will give them the safety feeling that they need at this point, because the situation here in Danbury is definitely desperate, and they really need to know that our communities support all our children graduating there. Thank you.
Doris Cordova.
To take some time, can we all look at the group and very quickly say statement?
Sure.
So hi, my name is Camilla, both of them from Carolina School District. Danbury, also resident to the whole Danbury public school system. And I'm also an alternate member.
Hi, my name is Doris Cordova. I'm a part of C4D, an organization for that advocates for immigrant students and immigrant families.
Estamos aquí apoyándoles a todos los estudiantes de la comunidad de Danbury.
He said his name is Angel Hidrogo, and he's here to support the immigrant students.
Estamos apoyándoles porque mis hijos se educaron aquí en las escuelas públicas. Mis hijos, Angie, Pablo y Andrés, que está por graduarse en la high school. Y sería bueno de que nos apoyen con su voto, con su visto bueno para que las cartas y para que la inmigración no llegue a las escuelas, porque es difícil vivir y los niños se van a sentir mal al no poder estar con sus compañeros o con sus amigos, con sus profesores, estudiando tranquilamente como debería ser la naturalidad de nuestros pequeños hijos. Gracias.
I'm gonna translate for him. So he said, I'm here in support of the letter that Kate wrote. I have three children, and they went to Danbury Public Schools. My youngest son is graduating this year in Danbury High School, and we really would like to see your support on having these letters to all Danbury Public Schools, because I know it will be a relief to all the families and to all the kids that are now in fear and anxiety, living in anxiety.
Thank you.
Julie Kushner.
Hi, I'm Julie Kushner, and I'm a resident of Danbury. I've lived here for 25 years, and my 3 grown children have been through public schools here. And I've been very proud of their accomplishments and the education they received in Danbury. Particularly my youngest child, who went all the way through school here. And so many of her friends over the years were children from other countries. And the relationships that she built with them were so incredibly strong and so powerful, and taught her so much about diversity and about acceptance and real true bonds of friendship. I know now that some of those children were here, were undocumented, and I would be so sorry if any of them were living in the fear that people have today. Recently, I've had the privilege of working with the Connecticut Students for a Dream, and I've been so impressed with them and what they've learned in our public schools. So many of them come from the Danbury public schools, and there's a moment now where people are living in fear. I've asked everyone I know, when I encounter people that I know are immigrants, I ask them, how are their children doing? And they have repeatedly told me that they're very afraid of going to school right now. And it's not a surprise when you think about social media. And recently I know there was a father that was picked up dropping his kid off to school and was deported. And that travels all over social media, and so it's not surprising that people are living with this fear right now. So I not only support Kate's letter, but I would ask that we take every measure we can to assure that our children are reassured, to make sure the parents are reassured, and to do everything we can to make sure that no one dropping off their children or no child is interfered with or deported, because that would be such a travesty. And I hope that Danbury will prove to the world that we're better than that, and that we protect all of our children and all of our families. So I feel very strongly about this issue, being Jewish and having been born in 1952, soon after the Holocaust and seeing how people can turn on others in their community in such a horrific way. And I know we're better than that. And so I feel very sensitive to the issue, and I hope all of you will share my views on this. Thank you.
James Root.
James Root, Danbury, I'll be brief. I just wanted, unofficially, on behalf of the Danbury Area Justice Network, to second the comments by Ms. Canetta. I hope the board, Dr. Sal, can consider these requests. I understand it may not be difficult with the political difficulties in the city, but just some kind of communication on these issues going out would really be a big help. The school system is almost like a second government in the city, and it would really be helpful to get some kind of communication on these issues. And I appreciate you listening tonight. Thank you.
Okay, that's it on the list that we have. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak before we close public participation? Anyone? Okay.
I think are you coming in? There it is.
Okay.
Wanted to speak and apologize for being late. I'm John Barnes, interim principal at Shelter Rock. We had a student who started brand new at school today. He had a great day. He took the bus home, and at 4:30, his guardian came in, and he had not arrived home. He was still riding the bus. So the good news is he was on the bus, but I was a little bit late, and I had to pick up my own children. So I apologize to the board and the audience for being late, but I thought it was really important to be here to thank you for a couple of minutes. One of my colleagues was here, Deb Morris, who I share with the street as a music teacher, and I know that she told you about the Start With Hello chorus, but I also want to let you know that certainly that was a highlight. We did have an all-school assembly at Shelter Rock that the students ran, the brand new leadership club, and they spoke, and certainly some guests of honor were superintendent and deputy superintendent and our city councilor. The mayor came by and visited with the children and prepared a proclamation, which I did pick up earlier today, which will be hung at Shelter Rock in honor of, Jill, I'll take this, here, in honor of the students, but he did have a chance to talk to them about civil awareness, social justice, and what it means to do the right thing. So this will be hanging prominently. In addition, both the police department and the fire department, I would like to thank. They came and they had lunch with our children during various days, and the fire department brought out all of their large trucks. And I did tell them on my bucket list was to go out in the bucket and to go as high as I possibly could. And they strapped me down and up there, they waved, and the kids thought it was great. So it was, we did have 2 snow days. We extended the week into 2 weeks. Our student leadership club is continuing and trying to do good things. So again, I apologize, but if I had an opportunity to speak on behalf of the school as the interim principal and about the kids, I really appreciate being able to do that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Barnes. They want to put me in a bucket. I don't want to see where they want to put me.
All right, moving on to the consent calendar.
That the Board of Education approves the items on the consent calendar, exhibits 17 through 31 through 17-33 as recommended.
Seconded by Ms. Cooper. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Extensions? Okay, motion carries. Okay, employee representatives here? Student representatives? That's a no also. Okay, presentation time.
Antonio, you guys want to come on up? We met with the city and we had requested to update us on the project at the high school, the addition for the Lyceum or the little theater, I guess, is what we call it, and also for ACE, the Black Box. And ACE, so Antonio and Steve Knight.
You can just give me that, I'll make sure
Sure.
you're on the posters. I'm just going to get started here. I do have quite a bit of material to cover, and it's been a while since I've come to see you guys, so I want to catch up on some of our progress at the high school.
I'm going to give it a minus.
Okay.
I'm going to take that one. Sure. We just want to get it on.
Sound a little better?
Yes.
Okay. No problem. So again, I just want to tell you that our high school project, which is 6 phases, is well on its way. We've had some great progress. We are currently seeking approval for the 5th phase. The phase that's left after this one is basically an FF&E phase, which is just purchasing furniture, computers, and other related equipment. So this is really one of the largest phases compared to the building construction project, which you probably currently see ongoing right now. So what I'd like to do is just brief you on some of the current progress, the phases that have been completed. I will get into, I don't want to say a detailed presentation, but I am seeking your approval for phase 5. So I am going to cover that in some detail. And then we'll finish up with some questions that you may have. I also want to talk to you a little bit about the ACE study. I have some documentation pertaining to that. As you remember, it was $20,000 appropriated to do a study in the existing building at ACE, looking at bringing the population up and some of the challenges related to that. So I'll start off by, also want to just acknowledge my staff. I have Dan here. There he is. Dan's my right-hand guy, and my left-hand guy is, as you know, Tom Hughes, in charge of all the construction work going on at the high school.
Yeah,
So,
Tom, why don't you come and sit up these chairs here? On that side, in case you have to. Thank you.
So the Danbury High School project and the work that was being performed here in the last couple of years is very complicated. It covers pretty much brand new fire alarm systems, brand new sprinkler alarm systems, a brand new $24 million addition off the bat. So it's a very dynamic 6-phase project that we've taken on, and it's going really well. If you had any interaction with the state approval process in the last couple of years, they've changed the entire approval process. I've sat on a committee to spearhead some of those changes, and we've gone through a lot of learning curves. But we were one of the second districts to go through this large of a project with 2 different architects, and we've done really well. I'm really proud of my team. So the work that's been completed to date is, as you know, we were replacing every single roof on the high school. Major undertaking, about $5.7 million. We currently have buildings D, E, and F done. We've also replaced and set up 2 very large generators to drive the school during a power outage. We are going to be installing some switchgear this summer. Building A, B, and E All the sprinklers are now complete, and I believe we're fully sprinkled now. When I started here, I don't want to say shocked, but I was shocked. A school of this magnitude with that many students, we're relying on a primary alarm system to protect everybody downstairs. So working with the mayor, little by little, in 2 phases, we've gotten the entire building sprinkled. So major safety attribute to that school. We also have done a new parking lot near the Eastgate Road. That's going to be a critical parking lot for us because as we displace some parking for the black box addition, it provides not only additional parking, but provides the spillage that we required. We removed a very large in-ground oil tank, which was over 20 years old and was required to be pulled out of the ground. We now have a new above-ground tank, and we installed a new fats, oil, and grease separator, which is a new DEP requirement. That was done right outside the kitchen area. What it does is it captures any grease, fats, and oils prior to it going into the sanitary sewer system. The ongoing work, which you will see if you drive up to the high school today, is the new classroom addition is fully under construction. We've been pouring concrete through the winter. We've been taking our opportunities whenever we have. We did have a couple weeks of pretty severe cold weather, and we got very nervous with our concrete, but we monitor our concrete temperature on a day-to-day basis, actually 24 hours a day, and we never got any readings that even remotely was a concern. So the cold weather work is going really well. So the foundation work is predominantly done. What you see out there now is 20 to 25 foot retaining walls, which are what holds back the slope on the back end of the D building. You will see 2 large connectors going into the existing D building off of the new building. Our site utilities are almost 80% complete. We have all of the water connections ready to go. Our sewer connections are ready to go. We're now starting to put all of the under slab plumbing work. So if you go out there, you'll see that. And we are going to be starting our steel erection the end of this month. We're anticipating possibly a 1-week delay there, but we can make that up there in the erection process. The entire building is scheduled to be opened in April of 2018. So we're very anxious to get that in operations and really take some of that tight spaces that you currently have in your high school and open it up to this new addition. The other thing I want to mention, when we met with the staff, and we worked really well with the staff, along with Dr. Sal and Joe, there was 2 pinch points within the school, actually I think 3, and we incorporated those. Although they weren't part of the original scope, we're incorporating putting wider doors in these areas to be able to allow the students to more effectively get to the brand new addition and get there very quickly. The work that's going to begin in the summer of 2017, which is only a couple months away, is we are going to do the cafeteria addition. With the new population growth, we felt that we needed to bump out the cafeteria to provide a little additional seating. We are also going to be starting the black box theater, which I'm going to present to you tonight. We are going to be doing the main entrance addition and security improvements. Again, all part of phase 5. There's a brand new bus loop and extensive site improvements that we're going to be taking on. And there's some auto shop improvement work that we're also going to be doing. Basically, the last couple of items I just described is what constitutes all of phase 5. So, what I'd like to do now is start with presenting phase 5, unless you guys have a couple questions before I move on. Great. I seek your approval tonight on phase 5. We are scheduled to go to the state on the 23rd? Oh, okay, so the 22nd. It's a pretty lengthy process to get up to the state, but we start with presenting you the drawings and the specifications tonight. We are scheduled to have what's called a building committee meeting, which several board members sit on, where we go in through a little more detail pertaining to what exactly is being built, what some of the cost estimates are, and And I'll leave all of that detailed technical information for that meeting. If you do want me to expand some of the highlights of what I'm discussing, I'll gladly do that with you. I did bring the spec books and what is almost 400 or 500 sheet of drawings here if we need to get into that detailed information. So what I like to do is, I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to work through some of these so I can give you the best visual impact. We have the architect basically put together a model. This is actually a scaled model of the existing high school. So just to orientate you to the model, because I'm going to probably use it, is the state road is up on top here. Your driveway.
Is it okay if we come up around?
Absolutely.
Why don't you move that down?
Closer,
Move that down.
so we can all kind of get up around it.
Yeah, no, this is wonderful.
I'll
Thank
see
you.
it better. You can push down a little more.
I mean, I'm okay with anybody who wants to walk up on it and take a look.
Sure. And I could take my time so we can.
Anybody in the audience wants to come around?
Okay.
For sure.
See, other people should have stayed, look what they're missing. I mean, come on. I can't see it, so I'm gonna have to go.
Sure. So just again, to orientate you to the model, this is basically the main entrance when you pull in. This is the current drop-off for the students. You have some faculty parking across the way. So the orientation is basically north is this way, south is this way. So the first part of Phase 5 that I'd like to present to you is going to be the brand new bus loop and some of the site improvements that are going to be made. So I'm just going to, and I'm sorry that I'm going back and forth, but maybe I can move this up for you guys to take a look also. So, this is the front of the brand new, this is the front of the building, and this is where an extensive amount of work is being done in the front of the building. The brand new work consists of a well thought out security safe zone area with multiple protections. The way this is set up is students are allowed to come in under pretty strict supervision. During the day, anybody that comes in, they go into a lockdown area where we can vet those people out. We can determine if we're going to let them in, we're not going to let them in. And only then will the security guard, through 2 double doors, allow that person to come in. So extensive checks, check and balance. So I will also want to tell you that the other work that's being done is, if you've gone to the school lately, you've seen what our past winters has done to the front entrance. The sidewalks, I repaired a couple of the sidewalks last year. I just can't keep up with it. So we're going to rip the entire front area apart, and we're going to put brand new concrete in there. We're also going to dress up the existing columns that are there, which are wrapped with a very soft stone. We're going to do something a little more durable. And we're going to try to give the front entrance a facelift. And to be honest with you, that's a tough facelift, and we struggled with it. But I think we have come up with something that is really spectacular. And it's been really by pushing the architects and getting as much feedback as I can from my own staff and also the staff at the high school. So the other site work is going to be installing a bypass driveway. So currently, when the buses position themselves and stage themselves in here to pick up the school kids, and also drop off the school kids, God forbid if there ever was a fire there was really no effective way to bring apparatus in. So we now created a bypass road where people can come, emergency vehicles can come in here and access that school, God forbid we needed to in an emergency situation. You'll see the other piece of that. This connection will go right into the next parking lot and work all the way out to Eastgate Road. So it provides what we call a parallel path of 2 roads being creating access out into the school and out of the school. So I'd like to just go over this piece of the exterior work and also the interior work. Thanks, Dan. just to orientate you, this line here reflects the existing front doors of the high school. This is that long corridor in the front. Your existing security is basically positioned right here now. So we are, and this is an expanded view of that area. We're bumping out the front entrance to create that vestibule that we spoke about, that checkpoint, that security, really double checkpoint area. So again, when the students come in the morning, you have a lot of staff there. Everybody's watching people come in. You're coming in through multiple doors so we can get the children in right away. Immediately upon the children coming in, these doors all get locked, and your security guard will sit in here. He will allow people to come in here. They'll be vetted, and ultimately they will be allowed to go in here. If for some strange reason they determine that there's an issue with the original vetting, they're still locked into this area. They're not allowed to go into school. So these are the double checkpoints that I spoke to you about. There's going to be a complete revamping on this front lobby. We're talking about new floors, new ceilings. We're going to try to give it a little bit of a facelift to go with what I'm going to show you in a few minutes, which is an exterior facelift of the front facade. And again, if you want to stop me for any questions, go
That's all
right ahead.
provided, that special glass that we're talking about.
We are doing there's two ways to provide that protection. There's bulletproof glass, very hard to get, very expensive. What all communities are using now is that special film, which gives you that same, the same protection. So that's what's being specified here, and that's what a lot of communities are using.
Excuse me, Antonio.
Yes.
Question. When you make reference to the area for the vetting, is that reference made to people other than the students?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there any consideration, or has there been any consideration regarding the students themselves in terms of passing through metal detectors or anything like that?
There has not, and there's multiple levels of security implementation. This seemed to be the one that the school itself and representatives from the school were looking for, which you currently have, but it's not the most effective and could really be penetrated. So this is much better, a big improvement. Okay, Dan, let's get to the front facade. Okay, there you have it. There is a rendering, and I'm going to also do this to your yes, I'm going to give you a two-phase approach. So the existing model shows what we call base bid. The base bid includes doing a canopy over what we consider to be two key entrances, doing a screening over the top to give it that noticeable entrance feel, and these are part of the base bid. So it's basically this canopy right here, this screening, and this canopy, and a little bit of screening over the top. Our hope is if the bid comes in, that we extend that enhancement to include what you ultimately will see here, which is a couldn't real life be like this?
I was going to say, it was only that easy, just drop right on top.
Like Legos.
So this gives the entire front just a new existence, completely new existence. We studied the front facade multiple times by taking pictures from the state road, midway down the slope, and we also did it as we drove. What was the visual impact as you drove? And in the end, after multiple months of going back and forth and trying different models, we all settled with what is an incredible enhancement of lighting in combination with enhancing the existing columns, architecturally treating the columns, along with doing these very linear enhancements along the entire front of the building.
Antonio, is that inadvertent, or are you going to actually have a screening in front of those?
Yes, and I want to talk to you about that. So one of my pet peeves is what we call the sawtooth roof of the school. At one point, it must have been in the 1950s or 60s, it was probably, somebody might have gotten an award for it. It's in my feelings, it's lost its life. So we're going to try to do a screening over the front of it to hide it. And to be honest with you, I think that is probably one of the most important things that we need to address with the front facade of the school. So what you will see, although it's not clear from here, but you will see it on the model, is we've done a higher, more projected screen in the back that will act as a backdrop and will hide most of the screen in here. So that is part of an alternate bid. It's not part of the base bid. Again, we have to get some of the key, most important items awarded, and if we have money, we will then implement the construction of some of these items that we spoke about. The good thing is the bidding environment has been very good. So we have been hitting most of our targets. Some bids we've come in a little low on, some we've come in a little high, but overall, we seem to be trending right about where we need to be. So it's a good sign for all of us. So, I think that covers pretty much the front facade and the front site work. The other thing that I want to mention to you is if we're going to spend so much money on the front facade and doing all of these enhancements and redoing all the concrete, I also felt that we should take a look at doing every single sidewalk that feeds into that front entry. So there is an alternate out there to do that. I also have an alternate out there to basically pave and replace all the curbing in the front of the school. Over the years, from snow plowing operations, it's been banged up, it's broke. We've fixed it by putting some asphalt. We've done whatever we can to keep the safety piece of it going, but we're not going to make this investment in the front facade without trying to address everything else. So again, I don't want to mislead you to think that we might be able to buy it all, but we have prioritized what we feel is going to be the most safety sensitive, obviously is number one, and work our way into the aesthetics. And we've done a little bit of that with the staff at the high school, along with what we feel is absolutely necessary. So what I'd like to do next is, Dan, I think we're going to just move down with our site.
Mr. Chairman, I have two suggestions earlier. Okay. I believe, thank you, sorry to interrupt.
So the site plan will show you a continuation now. As you were, if you were to drop the children off or where the main entrance is and you were to continue, okay, this is the interconnecting road that we've linked these two parking lots. If you know, there's a big dip here right now. This is a parking lot, isn't really used a lot. But the interconnection that we created is great because it allows, again, two parallel roads to work through this very tight area in front of the school. It also allows, as the buses are getting loaded, it does allow the opportunity, should we have an emergency issue there, to get the fire apparatus in there, get ambulance, get police in there effectively, quickly.
So the exit at the bottom is beyond where the buses.
This is, it's exactly correct, yeah. Yeah, and some of this work you see over here is actually work that we did this past summer. This is the brand new parking lot that we created. This is a new entranceway which will feed the black box theater. We're hoping you're going to have a lot of events here. You're probably going to get a lot of people coming in. We improved the entrance so people can get in and out of there very easily. So that was a pretty big improvement. So what I'd like to show you is where the black box theater is actually created. This is considered the A building. This was a 1990 addition that was put onto the school. And this is the connection between the existing school and the new black box theater is perfect. You do have some existing choral room and other types of related activities. So the interconnectivity, which is what we always look for, we don't want to have classes being done on one extreme end of the school and then have other classes in another end of the school. You want to have all the classes that have similar academic programs in one area. So this worked out really well. The black box theater is, give you some statistics on it. Black Box Theater is approximately 9,000 square feet. It's about 2,000 square feet more than what we thought we could probably construct, but we want to have a vibrant academic program here. We also thought it was very important when you build something like this that you build it and has a signature. I believe you're going to have a lot of shows here, you're going to have a lot of presentations here. We created a beautiful vestibule with an open atrium feel, skylights, really incredible. It's going to be really a beautiful building when we're done with it. So there's connections to the lower level of existing A building. The exterior of the building would include glass panels with some LED accent lighting. Again, we're creating a theater feel. We also hope, if there is enough money, that we do sort of a Broadway LED sign here, which will talk about shows that are coming, any other types of related academics that this Black Box Theater will support. That will all be controlled by the staff. We have a pre-assembly area, which is beautiful. So Dan's right there with him. This is the pre-assembly area. Again, this is the entrance, which is what you're seeing here, coming in the parking lot.
I want to talk about that little cutout you did, so people realize what you did.
This is actually the main entrance. This is the auto shop is right here. It's basically going in front of the auto shop. So this is the existing parking. We are taking some spaces, which were replaced by the construction of this new parking lot. And so you're going to walk into this building. You're going to walk into a beautiful lobby area with a skylight, a receiving desk. This also would be kind of an area where we can stage some of the kids, get them ready to be able to walk into. We're in our performance area, which is the theater is actually right here. There are there's a control room and a storage room to take all of our chairs or anything else that we may want to use during the performance. This control room is going to have state-of-the-art lighting and sound controls. You've got a great visual view of the performance of the stage. The stage is directly over here. We have its own bathrooms that are going to be located in here. We have a choral room. We have a band room. We have storage with some offices. We have storage in several other different areas. And we have the ability to basically cordon this entire new addition off from the balance of the school, so when you have shows or you want to maybe have the general public use it, you can effectively do it and not potentially have an issue with people getting into the balance of your school. So,
I meant that. What was the capacity of the little theater?
Dan, it was 150 people?
Retractable bleachers seating for 131.
131.
And is it flat or pitched?
It's all level floor.
This is all level.
It's all level like
Yeah,
this?
yeah. It's a portable stage, movable stage.
And when you build space like this, our biggest goal is to try to give the school flexibility in using the space. We try to really limit as much hard seating as we can, because what we find is, as we've been working with school districts, is they want to be able to have dynamic spaces that they can use for anything that they need, one day, one another. It also allows the staff to be creative. When they have an open platform like this, anything can happen within limits. We do have code requirements. So the building itself, the core rooms are around 1,200 square feet. The offices are around 435 square feet. There's janitor's closets, there's electrical room, there's multiple storage rooms. Let's see. The cost estimate currently for this addition is about $4.6 million. So it is a little more than what we anticipated spending on this building. And we hope that from some of the efficiencies that we've had in bidding some of the other phases, that we can make this project work and get it constructed just as it's designed. I'm going to show you a quick elevation of, and and I apologize, our rendering is being done in Thailand. And we were anticipating having it here tonight before 6 o'clock, but it never came. So I'm going to work off of an old rendering, which has actually been spruced up quite a bit. But we're doing a play on dynamic angles, some really great lighting into the actual classrooms, the ballroom and the band rooms. This is actually going to be the Black Box Theater. Although it looks like there's panels here, there aren't. Those are blanked off window panels. And there's going to be great LED lighting in here to give you that, really theater feel when you walk in. I also want to just quickly show you, and we can pass this around. This is the front facade. We've been working on this also, and you can pass that around. That is a visual of this to scale, what you're going to see. Again, we really pushed our architect to create something that has a signature to it, but something that also pays respect to the existing building, which is the 50s, 1960s, and 1990s. So you've had a multitude of additions put onto your high school, starting from the 1950s, 60s, all the way through 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now we're doing one more, which is in the back. So to try to bring all that together and pay respect to it, but also say this is brand new, is a challenge. So we feel we've accomplished it with what's going around right now.
You talking about the color of the brick?
No, it goes beyond the color of the brick. Yeah.
Well, I thought that was an interesting choice, though.
Yeah.
The way you blended it.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned to you, we are scheduled to go at the state on March 22nd. When we go to the state, so I can talk to you a little bit about the process, they put us through a rigorous review of every single page of these drawings, make sure that we've met all the code requirements, make sure that we have all of the approvals on a local level, which means fire marshal approval, health department approvals, in addition to having all of the building department approvals. And there's a number of documents that Sal signs on behalf of this board. We bring that up there and we pray that everything is in order. So it's usually a 4-hour meeting, and we've been fortunate. We've gotten all of our approvals the first time we've gone up on all our other phases. So that's just from years of being up there. And it helped that I was sat on the board that actually created the new processes. So having said that, my presentation is pretty much done for phase 5. And Sal, I'd like to move into the ACE a little bit, unless you have some questions.
Well, I just don't want you to be so modest. I mean, it's because you have such expertise in the field that we are so lucky to have you.
Well, it's I love doing schoolwork. I've done it for the last 20 years. We did almost $200 million worth of schoolwork in Stanford every year. Basically went through one school building right to the other. So I like it. I also like to see the children when they come into a brand new school. So for me, it's a love, it's a passion. But there's so much that goes into these projects, and the stakeholder meetings, and hashing out how we get through certain elements of struggles.
And that's where your expertise comes in.
And to be honest with you, your staff, Sal and Joe, have been phenomenal. When we've hit some struggles with budgets, we found ways to deal with it, and they've been phenomenal. So thank you. I appreciate your nice comments. Seriously.
Are we comfortable with the timing for September? What happened last year, they decided to not go forward with a few things. And Antonio expressed yesterday in our construction meeting that everybody had a timetable, and they have a Gantt chart, I'll call, that to where the dumpsters are being moved depending. So everything is down to the T.
Yeah.
On the 46 days or whatever it is. We just talked a little bit about timing in terms of when our students come back and our faculty come back, for the high school, where we are. For this fall, not the
for this fall, yeah.
We talked about
yeah,
that.
there's doing $8 million worth of work in one area is somewhat of a challenge in summer. Doing it in what is in about 10 different areas, with 2 different contractors, potentially 3 different contractors, 2 architects, it's a shuffle game. It is a constant monitoring. Our staff's up there all the time, our construction managers are there working with us. If one day slips on schedule, we're looking at how to recover that day. So Sal's absolutely correct, and we're honest with them. When we feel we're in a real challenge situation, we express it to them because we want them to be part of that with us. And so we talked about possibly, as we proceed with the project, maybe looking at starting the kids when we're.
I was thinking, we would talk a little bit because we have 2-year counties to start the day after Labor Day.
All in favor?
I knew we did 100%.
So at this point, that's a fallback position. It's too early, and we have nothing that shows us needing that. But Sal was good enough to say, if we have to, I'll go to the board and we'll see if we can get that implemented. Believe it or not, 6 days in construction, which is where we're biased, is huge. And what do we do in the middle? So it does create some opportunities for us. But I believe we're going to be fine. We've never hit a target. We've done a lot of schoolwork for you guys in this board. We've never missed a target. We never missed a budget. I've had 10 years of a great track record with you, and I hope to continue to do that with this really diverse project that we have.
And what about graduation this year?
Graduation, we met specifically over graduation.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good
Yeah,
with that.
and we have a plan on how to deal with that. We also meet pretty extensively whenever we do large changes in the way children get to the fields, the way our staff moves around. So we have extensive meetings regarding that. We are going to be altering some of the student basically access to the field. We have to do that because I have all the steel coming in, and we don't want to have a crane picking steel over where kids are actually walking. Yeah, so we just discussed that. We met. We got a lot of feedback from the school, and we incorporated several of the recommendations, and we have 2 more recommendations that we're actually scoping out, and then we'll make a final presentation to them. Everybody signs off at the end. Everybody's got to be comfortable. So that's what we ultimately are doing. So if there's no more questions, I'll just briefly talk a little bit about the ACE study.
And Tony, just quick, we see no field shutdowns, and we're just so we're
That's
clear on
correct.
that.
Our
There's no,
commitment,
yeah,
when we
we've
started
moved,
this
the
project-
city's gonna put additional fencing in, we see no problems up there, we've worked with Chip on the flow and everything else, so we see no problems.
Yeah, again, the additional, the commitment we made is other than that far left practice field, which had a lot of
Drainage issues anyway, so
drainage
we're perfectly
issues.
fine with taking that one.
Yeah, so we, that's what we took over. We don't plan on taking anything else over, and we should be good moving forward with not only during school, but you guys have a pretty extensive summer program of athletics at this high school. So we don't see any impacts to that either.
Summer school this year will be at Rogers Park, right?
Tony, we've already heard about West Side.
On the west side.
I haven't checked
because
every
of-
additional fence.
Because there's asbestos work and children under 18 cannot be in that building.
Yeah, the little bit of asbestos work we have is it's not even friable material, it's all exterior. But being a certified asbestos abatement person, I just rather not have anybody under the age of 18 there. And the Board of Education doing some minor asbestos work. So it's only for, what do we figure about it, a month?
Yeah, that's what
Not
we
even
do.
a month.
3 weeks or something.
And then everybody will have access to the building as they typically do, so that shouldn't be an issue. ACE. So we did turn the architect loose on the ACE study. The architect that's doing the ACE study is also the architect that's pushing to get phase 5 approved. So we had to throttle what we wanted to push through in order to meet our bidding requirements. So although we kicked off the study, we had to focus hard on getting our phase 5 work done.
He's also the same architect who designed the proposed ACE, so he knew a little bit about
Yes,
the facility.
right.
He was very familiar with it.
He was familiar with it. He had done some of the background work. And he's in the process of gathering information right now on our end. He's basically picking up drainage, picking up site survey information. We're looking at underground utilities. I do want to tell you that school and adding on to that school is a challenge on many different fronts. One, it is a historical building. There was some code work that was done years and years ago. In my opinion, not probably the best synopsis of how to deal with some of that code work, but it limited a considerable opportunities for us to do anything different there. There's also a, if anybody's seen the volleyball nets, there's an incredible underground set of pipes in there that take stormwater and infiltrate it into the ground. There is no real good drainage out on our roads. It has limited parking. So as you know, in order to meet zoning requirements, the first thing you have to do is demonstrate that you have proper parking. And although we could probably go in and get a zoning variance, usually the variance is for a 5% miss, you know, on the required parking. We're probably gonna, we're looking at a much more significant miss in parking requirements. So, but we're gonna take the study on. Our plan is to start having meetings, once we gather all the site information, start having meetings with the stakeholders. We want to understand the academic program, make sure that it hasn't changed from when Joe looked at it about a year ago or 2 years ago? 2 years ago, yeah. The ultimate goal, as I understand it, and we'll fine tune it when we meet with staff, is to go from an existing 96 student population at the school to possibly about 150. Also create some space, common spaces, such as assembly areas, someplace that these kids could get together and have some common areas. A challenge? Yes, I want to tell you that. As I work through the study and as we complete it, I will come to you, I'll do another presentation. I have forced the architect to come up with 2 possible alternatives for additions. As you know, with a building that has some historical significance, you just can't really knock it down, or something as old as this, you just can't add additional floors up. So our challenge here is going to be working on a very small footprint of a lot, knowing that we can't go any higher on the existing building. So that's what we're going to do. And other than that, that's pretty much what summarizes the ACE study.
Is it safe to assume that your new name will be the miracle worker?
Well, you know, I have worked with some real tight spots, but this really creates multiple challenges. I mean, I've built buildings over existing buildings, did that at Stanford High School. But to look at a building that dates back to this, I think it's over 100 years old. With some of the challenges that it has, as you know, we've struggled with certain aspects of the building. 2 years ago, we took on an issue with the weeping walls. Anytime it rained, the brick was absorbing all the water. You know, the building's got a great footprint. It's a beautiful building. I just don't know how much more it can sustain as far as use, and that's what we need to do. As you know, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, when the need for some additional space came up, one of the things we looked at is trying to get you a brand new building. But at that point, the focus was, let's see what we can do with the existing building. That's how the $20,000 study got basically introduced into the budget. And we're going to do that for you. We committed to do that, and we'll do that. As soon as phase 5 is out to bid, the architect will focus pretty hard on the ACE, and we're going to reach out to staff. We do that through Sal's office, and we'll pull what we call a stakeholders meeting together and move forward. And if anybody's been involved in some of the previous meetings that we've had with other schools, we really solicit a lot of input from not only the administration at that school, but the teachers. The teachers are probably the most critical piece of it, and getting their feedback is best. So, well, that pretty much concludes my presentation. I hope that you approve these drawings and these specifications for Phase 5, which will allow me to have my building committee meeting next week, and we can continue the process all the way up until the 22nd.
I want to get some clarity. The building committee's gonna meet, they're the final.
They are the
absolutely.
final, yeah.
So you want to know from the board.
Yeah, we have
consensus-
a motion.
Motion on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Just
have a
wanna make
motion
sure
on the agenda.
what they're voting on.
Yes. And again, the motion on the agenda is a statutory requirement for us to move ahead. So, thank you.
Tony, thank you very much.
No.
Great job, appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Bye.
I gotta see Sean tomorrow.
Don't free here.
Yes, Jim Malone.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Get over here, Tom.
All right. So action items.
Ready?
You're all ready.
That the Board of Education authorizes the chairperson of the Board of Education and the superintendent of schools to approve the final plans, contract specifications, and cost estimates for Phase 5 of the additions and alterations with safety improvements at the Danbury High School Complex project and sign the SCG-0424 and submit it to the state of Connecticut for approval.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Alberts. Any discussions? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? No? Abstentions? No? Okay, seeing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
That the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent of schools to submit the Form ED-099 to the Connecticut State Department of Education, stating that the board will participate in Section 3 of Connecticut General Statutes, Section 10-215F.
Seconded by Ms. Alberts. Any questions? No? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Next. That the Board of Education allow the sale to students of any legal foods not listed in Section 3 of Connecticut General Statute, Section 10-215F, at all co-curricular sponsored events such as sporting events, school performances, school dances, PTO-sponsored events, theatrical products, and school fairs, provided that the exemption criteria are met.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Alberts. Any questions? You have something, Joe? No. Oh, okay, that's not you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Abstentions? Okay, great. Motion carries. On to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I added one thing to the item, that I want to start with that. I did produce a document and I distributed among the principals regarding how to handle any situation dealing with immigration officers and so forth. Just want the board to be alert to that. That has been, we've been noticed by the State Department, from the commissioner to the governor, and we've taken a lot of those and we've given it to the administrators. So they have a protocol. And clear in there, we're not an instrument for any investigation, for any immigration procedures. So there are many protections for our youngsters during the school day. I just want you to all know that they did receive that from me about 2 weeks ago. Universal Service Fund Grant Award, that you want to just, as I go up, I'm going backwards.
The board did, we did receive a grant for $700,000 to replace the bulk of our wireless infrastructure in the school district this summer. So it's going to be a pretty cool project, upgrading all the wireless access points.
Legislative update, I found out today we do have a day on the Hill, May 16th. Tuesday the 16th, we'll be going up there and lobbyists will organize a day for us. To let you know, we've been up there, Bill was there, Joe, myself. We've testified a few times. I expect we'll be there next week. The committee that Mr. Ferguson's on, they're looking at the funding mechanism and how that may play out. Right now it's pretty skeleton is the best word. There's not much to it. But I will tell you that the proposal that was moving forward didn't recognize in it any calculation for L students, which was removed. There isn't any establishment of a foundation level at all that needs to happen so that they can base any index off of that, such as free and reduced lunch. They're looking at using Husky. We think that's okay, but we think both could be used so we can have a better focus on those youngsters that are really needy for a free and reduced lunch. And then, of course, do something with special education that was not considered. Transportation is also being looked at. So I'll be setting something up tonight so that he has something in hand when they start those conversations to at least advocate for those positions. Schools of distinction. For the past few years, we have been talking to the State Department regarding recognizing the work that our teachers are doing and the principals are doing, because we're getting youngsters in there, and some of them, although they may not become proficient on a state test, could be getting a year and a half, 2 years worth of growth on youngsters, and that's really incredible to start moving, closing the gap, and getting kids to proficient. The state looked at a number of different characteristics in the school to say that we are doing well, the school is moving its student body, and Danbury received 6 nominations, 2 which in the top 10. 1 that's the best in the state. And we're going to have them here next week to recognize them, to say thank you for the work. I'm not going to happen every year, but I think, it was Danbury, Ridgefield, and I don't know if it was Greenwich, had 6. All had 6. I was just blown away. That all puts us, I found out that by being a school of distinction, we're able to access some special funding. Now, whether or not it's there or not is another thing. But anyway, we have to look at that. But it's just really hard work that they're doing. So they'll be at your next board meeting, so we hope to say thank you to those principals, and hopefully they'll bring a representative. The other thing is, the Danbury High School had a walkout a week ago, and I know I've been sending things out to all of you. I guess I just need to make it clear that we don't sanction it, and to let you know that it was very difficult to handle, in my opinion. The police did a wonderful job. We're meeting with Patrick Rittenhouse, the police chief, and others to debrief what happened and how to be more proactive going forward. Dan and his staff, in my view, did a de-escalation of it. They had kids back in. There was an issue with the media that showed up, and we found out in talking to Dan that the media was invited in, but it was in a controlled setting with fewer students. They utilized that, and then they had an assembly on Monday to talk about how to handle prejudice. If any of you have been around, we have the Anti-Defamation League. They have a program called Names Can Hurt, which they come in and do a similar assembly. The kids kind of prototyped after that. They had some during their advisory period. They went to the auditorium and they had display. There was a survey done, but that was part of the programming. And I looked at it. Thank you for sending it to me. I certainly appreciate it because I hadn't seen it. But it talked about reflection, have you been prejudiced against, had different things that was used. I think what I saw them leveraging a situation that was intense and made it into more of they controlled it, and then leveraged it into an education program for our kids. I think that's value. You can always do things differently, and I think some people got the message, it was sanctioned. There was a sanctioned walkout, but that was in Stanford. The kids were gonna march out, and somehow they did go to the principal and they had an organized march. Ours was organic, to say the least, for any, what happened. There was something I saw, kids need to be disciplined. Well, that may be, but those kids who walked out and were late were disciplined regarding whatever the policy is. Those kids that missed class got a unexcused absence, so that was the extent of it. Some kids that acted inappropriately were, we did remove the right for them to attend school for a few days. And we're still looking at things in terms of how it all came about. So I did want to at least let you know that we are, what we're doing. There's a club up there called Black Lives Matters, and there's been some discussion about why. Dan met with them last spring, these youngsters, and they, although the name engenders a feeling, I get that. But the kids themselves, it's more egalitarian. They have all children and all lives that they're concerned about, and they're operating from a pretty positive point of view, trying to deal with issues that they're confronted with, much as the people we're talking to you here tonight. The incident that happened at the high school was kind of the benching mark for kids. That incident where the adult and the youngsters got into a confrontation, that sort of was the beginning of it. So part of this was trying to explain what happened there. There was a lot of misunderstandings that were going on. And I think that came up at a meeting, I don't know, Bill just walked away, at another meeting with a community group, explaining some of the misunderstandings. Joe, you were there. You were actually there that day.
No, I mean, you know, it was orderly in its process. I did get up there about maybe 10 minutes into it. And, you know, it was complicated to Sal's point. It really de-escalated slowly, but it was, you know, thankfully it was, we call it orderly, so, what the students did. So, it was definitely a complicated situation, I would say that. We had about 4 or 5 Danbury police up there, plus all the high school administration. They actually ended with, as you guys know, there was a few students left in the bleachers that Dr. Robbins used to come and talk to at the end. It was complicated. I mean, I definitely would say that.
I want to get Dr. West on his call out because he was up there as well. There was any.
Mr. Joe?
Dr. Sal.
Yeah.
You made reference earlier in comments about a protocol that was sent out to your staff and the administrators dealing with the
Immigration
issue. Is this something that the board should read so that if parents, I mean, you can see the concern and the concern that was here tonight. If people meet board members and express a frustration, what should the board say? Just call Dr. Sal, or do we look at this and spout the party line? I don't mean facetiously, but at least we're on the same page and not doing a creative type of conversation where we might put our foot into our mouth. So we can say, this is the board's protocol, this is the board's the superintendent's policy or superintendent's protocol, just to educate us a little bit more so that we are all on the same page. Considering this issue is so dynamic and so touchy and sensitive right now, is this something that you feel would be good to share with us for knowledge?
I think that's a good point.
Okay. I did, there's some documents that the governor sent us last week and a half ago, a document from the Commission Wednesday. We sat and looked at the law, and the point of view we were using is that the school is a safe haven, and it's not a function of the government, and it's not a function of any investigatory arm of the government, unless there's subpoenas, correct? You might want to explain it to the board, and I'll explain what I did.
Sure. So I think what the governor's letter was trying to clarify, and the reason why it went out was because it was to allay concerns if there was any changes in terms of where ICE agents would go. The concern was are we suddenly going to have ICE agents appearing in schools asking for school records, taking children? And the purpose of the letter was to allay concerns that there and have long been regulations that say that certain spaces, schools, churches, hospitals, places where people go for
Bus stops.
services, bus stops, are typically those places where that kind of activity is not going to happen. And so part of the reason for sending the letter is to affirm that that is still the case, and to make sure that as an operator of schools, that we understand that that provision exists, that it's out there, and that should we confront a situation where someone comes in asking for records, that our administrators know what to do if that were to happen. So that's why we sent a memo out to all of our administrators, basically saying, we think it's unlikely, but if you find yourself in this situation, contact Dr. Glass, who will then speak with me. We'll look at any paperwork that there may be, if there's a subpoena to view records or obtain records. We worked also with Kelly to make sure that our folks, our principals, know that needs to come here to central office, and that we will then, review what there is and then make a decision about how to proceed. So it was really just reinforcing for our folks something that they've always done. They routinely will get records requests from all different kinds of places. It might be in dissolution actions, it might be protective orders. So they generally will follow that procedure to send them, and we wanted to make sure that they understood that if they were to face this issue, that this was going to be the protocol, and that we would then vet it centrally. And that's really the purpose of the governor's memo, is I think to reinforce that as well.
So, excuse me, is someone shows up at the school, high school, looking for any information?
So there's lots of...
We don't allow them to get that information.
No, there's lots of laws about protection of student records from disclosure, protection of any information pertaining to student records, and our folks, I would say, are very well aware of their obligation to not disclose information like that. So that was really the point, was for us to reiterate to them that nothing has changed, that they need to follow the same kind of protocol.
The other thing,
Just yell.
Okay. The other thing that we did is we provided, sorry about that, guidance to the PPS staff. So oftentimes families, I think, that are concerned, that is a go-to person for them. So there are some kind of sensitive ways about guiding questions, how they should handle things, questions that they should ask, resources that they can provide them to, and really just ask them to be diligent in working along with us and with their building administration on keeping kind of eyes and ears out for those students who may be struggling during this difficult time, and reaching out and helping to support them and their families.
So essentially, pardon me, so if a parent, I don't have any, but if a parent that many of us know, and because of the years including in Danbury, comes to us and says, I don't want to send, or I'm fearful of sending my child to school, we can, as a board member, say, as long as the school is a safe haven and you don't have any worries or issues, would that be a correct statement and you're protected by law?
I think what I want you to say is that, our schools are safe for all children, and we operate a school system, not an immigration service. That's what's on their brains. That if there's going to be any allowance or any access, there's a protocol set for them to go through. We cannot, I'm a firm believer following the law, but we have a process for examining the subpoena and other administrative things they would have to produce to have access.
And there is clearly in those regulations it talks about there may be exigent circumstances, an act of terrorism, there may be some reason that we're going to have to vet at the moment if that were to occur. But again, the point is we don't see any reason to think that those will change from being very, very rare occurrences. That those kinds of exigent circumstances would exist.
Thank you.
But I will want to respond to some. I did send out a detailed procedure to all. I'll send it to the board so you can see it. And if you're comfortable, I have no problem getting it out. Because I will say, talking to a few principals, it's on the minds of kids and faculty. There are some issues there. So I wouldn't at all be opposed to telling people what we stand for and what we're about, and that we are a safe place for our youngsters, and what we're focusing on if any issues arise. And I'll send you that, you can take a look at it, and you can kind of give me some advice on it, what you all think.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, something for Bill to.
Bill, I don't know if you had something to update on, we talked a little bit about the student walkout. I know you were up there.
I can tell you that, just a short response. I think Sal and Kim did a really nice job of capturing it. There is a tremendous amount of fear in the community, just a tremendous amount. I can't begin to tell you how many parents have stopped me outside of the school, you know, whether I'm on a different kind of board or in the community, just on some other type of business, with the question, should I send my child to school? The answer is always yes. Always send your child to school. Is ICE going to come in and be able to take them away, that kind of thing? The other night at the community forum, police chief, I think, did a very good job of communicating that ICE across the country is, I don't want to use the term overwhelmed because it sounds pejorative, but bear with me for lack of a better term, is overwhelmed with looking for the really bad people, the bad guys, and is not concerned about anybody who has blown through a stop sign or something and we're going to deport you and all this kind of stuff. They're really looking for human trafficking, high-end drug dealers, things like that. But the community is not necessarily internalizing it that way. And you heard tonight from folks, there's just a tremendous amount of fear. So a lot of our work, and Kelly said it as well, the PPS staff is just kind of calming kids down. Teachers are saying to a social worker, you might want to keep your eye on these 3 kids, you know, so we'll do a lunch bunch with them and say, are you concerned? Well, what happens if they take my mom and my dad and they take them away? Well, how will I get home? Who's going to feed me? Where will I live? And so we're working through all those kinds of issues. And as Kim said, you know, we're trying to have this, it was serendipitous. You know, it came up as a big issue. Where's the point of contact with the police department? Where's the point of contact with the mayor's office? Where's the point of contact with the Board of Ed? So we have a very nice little cogent, you know, it comes to my office, I sit with Kim, and we go back and forth. Is, you know, is a judge's order, or is it an administrative order, or is it just somebody walking in saying, hey, can I have this information? Parenthetically, Ralph, we get that all the time. We have people constantly asking for information, and there's FERPA and HIPAA, and you name it, and we say, no, you can't have that. And come on in, we'll sit down for a while, we'll have a conversation why you can't have that, and who can and what you have to do, and all that kind of stuff. With all that said, I personally, just as a person who's been here for almost 20 years now, working very closely with the schools, I think that the high school handled it very, very well. It was a no-win situation, and having been in another school system where I not only witnessed, I was right in the middle of a protest that turned into a very violent riot. This could have gone that way very quickly, and instead it was managed well and de-escalated. And is there room for reflection and turn around and say, could we have done it better? Well, there always is. You know, and I can tell you that's going on, and processing. And the final piece out of this is, you know, this is not going to go away. We don't see this. This is one and done. You know, we've been talking about it at the cabinet level and at the building levels. We have an administrative council coming up tomorrow. We'll probably talk about it there as well. This is just the reality today. And so it's great to have this on the agenda so we can process this as a team and work through it. And the final thought for me, the really big thing that people are looking to us for, Sal said, is it safe? Is this a safe place for kids? It's a safe place for kids. Kim said there are certain places where, you know, we're in a church, it's a safe place for kids. We're in a school, it's a safe place for kids. You know, other places might be different, but for us, that's our recursive message. Your kids are okay here. You know, if you have a problem, bring it right to us. Just bring it right to us immediately. We'll sit down and process it with you. And we've been kind of joined at the hip for the past couple of days on different kinds of issues. Just process.
Any questions?
So I will send to all of you, and I would appreciate any advice. I mean, you can come here and you can look at it, and we can go from there, okay?
Yeah.
I appreciate that, thank you. I included some information in this packet for you, the trip to London, the progress in that. I hope you received it, a letter from the attorney, great. Okay, and the Education Committee public hearing, March 1st, that was Yeah, right, I was trying, okay. Bill, that's where you went on and testified.
Well, we're not Karen, Michael,
You're
and I
Karen.
spent 1,000 hours looking at each other.
Just so the board knows, we're not guaranteed to get on, nor can Mike get us on. There's a lottery system, and
I mean, you'll eventually speak,
Yeah.
but it probably would have been at 8 o'clock at night. We were there for 12 hours.
You were there 12 hours?
10:30 to 10:15, 10:30 in the morning till 10:15.
And that community forum that we mentioned was the same night. Just got back in time at 6 o'clock.
Were there that many people before you? Is that what?
106 people from the public.
Do they have like time period or?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
But then questions.
Sure. Wow.
But Dr. Glass did submit testimony that everyone, all the members of the committee got a hold of and are able to look at.
You should bring up or develop one of these avatar things.
Joe, were you up there?
No, I didn't, I testified for appropriations, not for.
We did appropriations, okay. All right, thank you.
And I just want to say one thing. The Say Hello, Say Something program, thanks to Dr. Sal, an incredible program. I think we were one of the first in the state to do that. I'm a firm believer of that. I think it makes the world a better place. It teaches the children in the elementary schools to just be better people and to practice this whole year long. It's just amazing. As a case in point, as an adult, I've commuted basically from Brewster to Manhattan every day on the Metro North Line. And when you sit there and you see the same faces every day, nobody says anything, you really become an oddball when you look at the same face for 5 years and say, hi, good morning. People first look at you as if you're nuts, but after 5 or 6 days saying good morning, somebody will say, well, good morning to you. And it really doesn't take much, but if you look at what we're building now to the future, you know, it'll eliminate a lot of that unfriendliness. So I just think it's a great program, and Danbury's leadership in that. So it's good.
Anything else? All right, board chairperson's report. Just a couple of things I just wanted to mention. The convention is March 13th, this Monday. I know I'm going to be judging it, and I know Eileen has been the last couple of years. It's a great thing. It's March 13th at the West Side Middle School, and it's 7:45 to 10 for the middle school students, and it's the 9 elementary schools go from 3:30 to 5:30. I know Darlene, who organizes it, sent out a bunch of requests for judges. I'll be there pretty much in the morning, so the school visits in between, and then back for the elementary at 3:30 to 5:30. So, and also there is, did we say this? The family camp is Saturday, April 1st, 2017. It was last year was Family University, right? It's same great event, just different name. So that should be coming around to the board members about that. April 1st, 8:30 to 12:30, Rogers Park. I've gone the last couple of years, and it's a great event. And that's all for me. Any reports from any board members? Any PTO stuff? Mr. Ferguson.
Just real quick, tomorrow is Fairfield County Giving Day, FCGID as it's known. And DSABC has participated in this. I think this will be its 3rd year now. DSABC is one of the organizations that is a part of this. And I think all board members got an email from Devin Warner on this, or from DSABC directly. So just another reminder that this is tomorrow, and to encourage you to participate and to share with others.
How much did they raise this year?
Sounds like
It was
7,000.
7,000, because they quit doing the other fundraisers, that's the fundraiser.
Yeah.
Right?
For now.
For now.
For now.
All right. Anything else? Okay. No executive session. That's great. We need a vote.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Seconded by Kathy Palmero. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all, okay, for
Take care, guys.